Senin dura
Senne.
gaafii na gaafat.
Senne.
Okay.
Okay, hello everyone. Hello, Ola community. Today is going to be our live discussion on the topic of Waaqeddannaa and its religious persecution. This panel is coming after the recent Recha, in which one of our volunteers released an article on the Ola website concerning Recha and its suppression and resistance. So without further ado, let's introduce our guests, our panelists. Bosnake, can you go first?
Thank you. My name is Asnaq Tashoma Irkom. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. Sena?
Thank you. Good morning. It's very early morning here. It's 8 a.m. My name is Sena Jimjimo. I'm a director for Allah, and I'm obviously excited to be here. And I did read the article, and I can't thank Basnak very much for that fantastic that article that's written by, I think it's important to point out by Nana Romo to research and write that. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you. And yourself, Gudisa, very young. I don't know a lot of people if they know you're such a young man that does wake up so early and then in the weekend, right? It's not good. I guess
Yeah,
that's
that's true.
amazing.
That's true.
This young man is only in high school, and he worked with us, and it's. I was asking him right before you came, but yes.
Okay, thank you all for being here. Thank you. This is greatly appreciated. Okay, so let's get into our questions. Firstly, we should kind of give a little bit of background for our viewers about Waaqeddannaa, as it's not very known to the international community. So let's start with Bosnake. Could you please give us a brief rundown of the religion, kind of going over the time and reason for its conception, those who are the people who constitute its followers, and what are some core tenets of Waaqeddannaa?
First of all, thank you for inviting me to speak on Waaqeddannaa. It's really interesting topic these days. Waaqeddannaa is one of the first monotheistic religions which belongs to the whole Kush family. As we know from history, the Kush is both the language and the people background from the Horn of Africa, which is believed to be the first mankind in the Horn of Africa. So the Oromos, from the very beginning, they have their own indigenous religion, what we call today Waaqeddannaa. It is a belief in one Waaqa, which Oromos call Waaqa Tokkicha, and they call it Waaqa Tokkicha, Tokkicha Maqaan Dhibba, to show the pluralism of Waaqeddannaa religion. That is, people may call, Waaqa by different names according to the language. The Cushitic is a huge, large language family, and Oromo belongs to that. So Oromos call Waaqa Tokkicha, Tokkicha Maqaan Dhibba, Leemuu Garaa Taliilaa, Gurracha Garaan Garba, which describes, black is a color, deep, dignified color, which shows the mystery of Waaqa. That means it is beyond the comprehension of human being. One cannot go in, see the detail of Waaqa. Black color, as you know, is like you cannot look at through black color. That is also, in addition, shows purity. Waaqeddannaa by itself, the name Waaqeddannaa come, recently, but Waaqa and the belief in Waaqa has been there since the creation of mankind. The Oromo people call their supernatural being Waaqa Tokkich, and this is the first monotheistic religion. And the belief is like you believe in one waka, nothing more, nothing less. But this is like Oromos call waka created them. Waka created everything. That means the first creation came from Ume Walabu, Umen Walabu Bate, what they say. The creation come from Walabu. Walabu, they name it by water. The first creation is water, and that water is divided into two. Waka divide water into two. Bishan Ume, Walabu. And then the upper and the lower division, and there comes the creation work. I created what we see in the universe and what we see on earth. That is, in the universe, you look, the division is like three. Every heavenly thing in the sky, the stars, the water, the sun, and different creations in the universe. And what is the second, the lower part, is what we call the earth and the water on earth. So that is the way they define the first creation of human being and nature. Generally, Oromos divide the universe into five, and we have got laws for the five division, Yaya Shannon. Yaya Shannon is the description of everything created in the universe. And what they normally call is nothing is outside the five Yaya laws, or fathers of the five laws. And this division is the law for everything in heaven and in the universe. And the second law is the law for human being, the law for cattle, the law for horses and the mule, and the fifth one is the law for wild animals and the forest, everything included in the forest and the wild animals. It is very interesting to know, maybe interesting for you as you work for human rights, is Oromos give a special place for horses and the mules. Horses are equal to mankind, and they have got the right almost equal to human being. That is why they got their own special law. So I can come back to your questions. Maybe this is like a brief start.
Yes, thank you. Moving to Sena. Sena, I'd like to ask you, how did this article come about, and how did it kind of, the idea for it start?
Thank you, Gudisa. And I wanted to say to Obo Asnake, I think that background is so important. I want to give also a background how the article came to that way kind of people have a better understanding. But I do want to, that when you come back next time, that I think since this topic is not usually discussed in English language and at least the international community, it is very important that we set the clear background, what it is, the religion as it is, the culture that which Oromos intermix with, and not just Oromo. It goes far beyond Oromo into the Cushitic. So I think I do appreciate that background you said. But Gudita, and so the article I think is important because this is a topic that how did this conversation came about. As I think we remember in December 2021, the Ethiopian government executed 14 members of Abagadas from the Karayu. With that news, we reached out to different organizations, and particularly we reached out to, there is a branch within the US State Department that focuses on religion. And nobody knew this, the Waaqeddannaa religion. So we have to dig very, very hard. Thank God, the only website that have Waaqeddannaa, that information, but that was not sufficient to give the context and how people are in Ethiopia, particularly in Oromia, or almost in particularly the Waaqeddannaa followers, do get prosecuted both for their identity as well as their religion. A member of the Bagadas who were executed were in fact practicing this religion and their religion did put them single out, and usurp the organization within the State Department that have kind of support and speak up for religious minority group that are being prosecuted by different, whether it's another religion or whether it's a government such as the Ethiopian government that is prosecuting and going after people. So the article, the background was like, okay, we found whatever we found, but it was not sufficient. But we are very thankful to USARP because they did tweet about it, about the assassination or the killing of Baghdad. They did ask for independent investigation, and we are working with a different agency in the investigation, and we are optimistic something will come to light soon. But anyway, the background of the conversation came from like, okay, let's really do a decent amount of research about the religion itself. And as you know, I'll come back and speak a little bit more about, there's a lot of things that I found interesting myself, and the researcher happened to be Nano Romo. So I think people like, especially Bosnake, Badri, they did a fantastic job, Gudisa, kind of helping her put the context, because this article came on the light of 6 years ago. If you remember, October 2nd, 2016, hundreds of Oromos were killed through stampede, through gang, through different activity in Erecha, Harsadi, in Bushoftu. And that is kind of also, it came out, the publication literally was 6 years on the head. It came out on October 2nd or 3rd. And I think for those who have not read the article, it kind of puts, just like the title is about the oppression of the religion, the culture, the Recha, as well as the religion, but also the resistance, because it's through so much resistance that these people kept their culture, their religion, through this time. Right now, we're not in a reconstructive phase of the faith, and I think it is also important that because we're looking at the audience of this discussion to be broad, non-Oromos or non-Cushitic, to be everybody, So I think it's very important that, to me, I'm obviously learn a lot from people like Bosnake, but also I'm very fascinated to hear the opinion of young men like yourself, very young, and also practice the religion. What does it mean? What does it feel? To really be such a minority, to be also. I think as an organization, we obviously not really focused too much into religion, more of the oppression, the singling out of the faith followers that being persecuted by Ethiopian government. It is very important the international community do pay attention that such a persecution exists. We are as an organization speak about all sorts of human rights violation, whether it's a woman, gender, oppression, whether it's religion, or whether it is just an identity, such as the Oromo, that is they've been oppressed for just the identity. So thank you.
Thank you, Adesina. This is kind of a follow-up question to what both of you have said. It seems that recently Oromo culture and Waaqeddannaa also has become an act of resistance for some people, rather than being on its own and being your culture on its own or your faith on its own, where it has been in the centuries past. So how do you two think that the Oromo situation has morphed our religion, or Waaqeddannaa, or our culture also, into something more that is an act of resistance against some actor, or an act of resistance against assimilation, rather than being on its own and standing as this is our identity? Bosnake, we'll start with you.
Thank you again, Gudisa. Really fascinating to hear from young people like you. Very interesting question you raised. These days, Waaqeddannaa, Recha, Gada is a sort of like a resistance symbol. Religion issue is very sensitive issue, but also at the same time important to give a little bit background that Waaqeddannaa is not something new to the Oromo. It has been there for the last 7,000 years, and the Oromo people, before the introduction of other religions like Muslims and Christians, every Oromo followed Waaqeddannaa. Then, when the oppression comes, especially from the north, people start resisting, and due to that resistance in the 15th century, the Oromo people start diverting, converting to Muslim, some part in the East Oromia, and then the resistance continued. And in the 18th century, at the end of 18th century and beginning of 19th century, some Protestant missionaries came to West Oromia, and some Oromos start converting to Christianity. Then the domination of Waaqeddannaa came in 1850s, where Menelik start conquering Oromia, and they came with the Orthodox Christian Church as a weapon of domination. This is not sacred. This is history. And the Oromo people, it was almost forbidden to follow Waaqeddannaa, and it was taken, like a crime to follow Waaqeddannaa for the last 150 years. Since then, the Oromo people they didn't, drop Waaqeddannaa. They turned at home, even if the outside follow this official religions, Muslim and the Christian, they come home, and at their home they followed Waaqeddannaa. And in the last 20 years, when there is a little bit window of opportunity, a little bit opening, people start again in public following Waaqeddannaa in Oromia and in Ethiopia. And then we, living in abroad, start openly registering Waaqeddannaa and start following Waaqeddannaa. So this, situation make, when I come back to your question, symbolizes Waaqeddannaa as a sort of symbol of resistance, even if Irrecha, as mentioned in the article, well articulated, is like common for both Christian, Waaqeffatas, and the Muslims. It is also becoming symbol of resistance in Oromia today, and the Gada is also part of that. So, like, coming back to, your indigenous religion and following it become a sort of symbol of resistance. So many young people, many Oromos, today start claiming back Waaqeddannaa as their religion. And that is, this domination for many years, and the people's resisting to get it back, makes the situation which we see today is Waaqeddannaa becoming a sort of a symbol for resistance. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you have. Thank you so much. Adesena, I'll move to you and ask the same question. Could you please give your opinion on how Oromo culture and Oromo religion has kind of morphed into something as resistance rather than standing on its own?
For me, obviously, I myself began practicing, or at least following much later in life, still teenagers, but much later compared to, I'm not expert like Obo Snake in the religion. But to me, I guess anything that is oppressed, usually it comes through music. It comes through it becomes an identity or a badge that you carry with the pride, because the oppressor is oppressing you or trying to wipe out this culture, this identity, whatever that thing that, I'm saying, whether it's like, for example, in the case of Muslim hijab girls wearing a headscarf, it is a form of resistance in certain parts of the country or the world, like, say, where they are forced to take the hijab off, so they wear that with a pride. So I think it's fascinating, and for me, it's fascinating to listen to Obasnake, because the religion itself was so oppressed, and people were prosecuted for following this faith, were ashamed to go public for so long. But right now, like you say, like we find on the article, it's becoming more of a form of resistance. That it's a revival. I don't know if I would say, maybe Bosna, I can say a little bit more on that one. To me, it's like, are we in the phase of reconstruction of the religion? You know what I'm saying? Like, to do that, I think we have to have a government that recognize that the oppression, the singling out of this faith follower, that need to be put on the public domain for discussion. That you can say, like, okay, we are in a reconstruction phase, that we're trying to give back. But I don't think we are there. But nevertheless, if you see how long, it's just like in the last few decades, my age, that even Recha is slowly, it was secretly done, I'm saying, because it was so hidden from it was banned by the government. So people, like I say, from what I heard, and from what I heard from my own mom too, because during my mom time, during my grandma time, people did go to they call it Resa where I'm from, well, at least where my mom's from, it's called Resa. Everybody does Resa, but through government and through others, other means, that it kind of got banned, and over time it became it's a shameful. People didn't want to practice, and if they did practice it, they practiced it in secret. So I think with the Richa now becoming what it is, and we just what we saw, millions of people. I don't know if it's probably the largest, or maybe among the few top largest celebration that everybody, not even in Africa, I would say, in the world, that where millions of people come together. Muslims and Christians and Waaqeddannaa and all others followers of other faith come together to celebrate, and then go back in peace without really too much security protection. And in the case of Mfine, if you look at it, that water is so small, and it's just, to me, mind-boggling that people can come to that small area. I was there in 2019 and go back without like creating some kind of stampede, some kind of violence, and so it is a form of resistance. But it's still, I think we are still very, very long way to go to where it should be, is what I think.
Yes, that's very insightful. Thank you, Sena. Coming back to Bosnake, kind of a follow-up to this follow-up question. As we've just talked about how the Oromo culture and Oromo religion has become sort of an act of resistance recently, this coming up of resistance has also kind of been correlated with taking religious aspects of Waaqeddannaa, or themes that are common among all Oromo, and kind of converting them into cultural celebrations or cultural observations rather than religious. So I'd like to ask you, what do you think about how celebrations like Recha, for example, have become more cultural rather than religious celebrations, as lots of Oromos are in the open, not Waaqeddannaa and other religions?
Thank you. I start maybe with what Sena mentioned about reconstruction, or maybe revitalization of Waaqeddannaa. I wrote an article in 2019 and presented on OSA conference in Finfinne in 2019. There we were asked to recommend or come to with a policy recommendation regarding Waaqeddannaa and Gada. So what is very interesting there is Waaqeddannaa is there from the very beginning, but it was forbidden to practice it in public officially, and starting now to revive. It is a sort of now on the stage of reviving Waaqeddannaa without changing its original asset, but starting to bring together, make it legal. So we have raised some very important questions. I will come back to your question about Recha. Asked even Recha to be in a national holiday calendar in Ethiopia. We asked, among others, to get places to practice Waaqeddannaa, Galmas in Finfinne, and today Waaqeddannaa, they lack graveyard burial places. Those are things we asked, and even Waaqeddannaa, if it is properly reorganized as a religion in Ethiopia, it could help to check and balance both for Gada and local governments, and it could help for Naga and Arara, like for peace and reconciliation for the public. And there are many things we recommended in my article in 2019. Coming back to your question.
Before you answer Gudisa's question, I want you to, if you could add a little bit of context to something that I know you're about to jump over to the other one on the OSA one. The reason being, again, this discussion is, there's almost majority of the people who are listening this is the first knowledge or first time they're hearing about their faith. And I think the fact that, we don't talk about they are a person, according to this article, obviously I didn't do the research, I read it, less than 3% practice this religion. But whether 3% or 1% or 0%, there are people practicing this religion and they don't even have a place of burial. Like, so where is he or she, this person supposed to go? There is no place of worship. And I think that shows that international community, like our embassy, our U.S. embassy, we are in a conversation on that one, that the lack of, they have not really provided the kind of support they provided. Just this week, I saw a tweet from the U.S. embassy. They gave funding for the Orthodox Church. What I'm saying? They give funding for different religion and stuff like that, but there is no support. There is active state exclusion of the faith follower. And the fact that you disabled a place of burial, a place of worship, so that indirectly push people out of lack of, or maybe from desperation, because no person, no mom and dad want their child to be thrown away. They want a place of burial out of respect. And I want you to kind of, maybe if you can add context into that, because this conversation is really to give the prosecution of these people. I just wanted to say that part. Thank you.
Great. You raised a really important issue, because today in Finfinne and other parts of Oromia, if a Waaqeddannaa person dies, they have to buy a plot of, burial place from Orthodox Church and other churches and the mosques. Especially Orthodox Church is today owning a huge amount of land in Oromia. Then they sell it. One graveyard was bought for 40,000 Ethiopian birr in Finfinne, in the suburb of Finfinne in Burayu. And Waaqeffatas, if they are, even if they are Oromos owning the land, they're our land, they buy it back from Orthodox churches. I'm not blaming Orthodox Church for that. The government is the one which gave a huge, large amount of plot of land to the Orthodox Church and other churches and the mosques. They even claim that they gave a huge, land in Finfinne to the church and the mosques. Like a year ago, Addis Ababa City Council came out and said they have given. They even mentioned like how many hectares of land they gave to churches and mosques. But Waaqeddannaa religion, we have officially, we have the organization in Finfinne and outside. I have contacts. Recently, last week, I had a contact where they have, delivered an application to Finfinne City Council to get a plot of land for graveyard, and they didn't get any answer until today. This is very interesting because it's a part of domination. It is a part of, subjugation on the religion. I really would like to mention what Jomo Kenyatta once said, even if that has its own context. And they said he was talking about the Bible, And I quote, he said, when the missionaries came to Africa, they had the Bible and we had the land. They taught us to pray with our eyes closed. When we opened them, we had the Bible and in our hand, and they had the land. That is exactly what fits to Waaqeddannaa in Oromia and Ethiopia, because it's not the missionary coming and doing that. It's not the Europeans, but it's Africans from North Ethiopia, Abyssinians, coming down to Oromia. Then they took the land, and we have nothing. We now beg to get a little bit plot of land to get a graveyard. That is really an extreme subjugation today. So this is what we really talk about every day. Anybody can go to Finfinne or outside Finfinne and cross-check that. Still, people, Waaqeffatas, they pay a lot amount of money to buy graveyard from churches. And some churches, they even will not sell. They say, you don't belong to us. So this is one of the basic questions for those who are not aware of this. We can even explain it more in details. Coming back to your question about the Irrecha, why Irrecha is becoming, sort of national identity and resistance symbol instead of being part of Waaqeddannaa ritual. In the beginning, Recha is a part of Gada ceremony. Gada, is like more inclusive, the political, social, economic aspect of administration in Oromo culture. And Waaqeddannaa is the religion, and it has, deep relation with Waaqeddannaa. Gada and Waaqeddannaa is, deeply correlated until today. And Recha, as part of Gada, it is a practice of egently. I'm sorry, I'm mixing Norwegian here. Egently is something Norwegian. So, in fact, it is to say, in fact, Recha is a practice of a ritual for Waaqeffatas going to the riverbank and thanking God that we survived the heavy rainy summer and come to the shining sunny season. But these days, Muslims and Christians coming and celebrating Recha with Waaqeffatas, where we come to a point where we say, we Waaqeffatas, we will not claim it as if it is only ours. Oromos, they share both Gada, Waaqeddannaa, and Recha. And for Muslim Oromos and Christian Oromos, Recha is their part of culture. Even Waaqeddannaa is their culture, but it is our religion for us. For me and the people like you and the Sena, Waaqeddannaa is religion. Our religion we practice every day. But for Muslim and Christian Oromos, it is their part of history. It is their culture, where their ancestors were following this religion, and it belongs to them too. Then Irecha is the same. And when Christians and Muslims coming, standing with us and celebrating Irecha, we are happy, and we open it up and saying today Irecha belongs to every Oromo. When I go to for Irecha, I know I'm praying to Waka Gurraj. That is what we say. It's my religion. For me, it's a practice of part of religion. But for Christians and Muslims, it is their culture. They come with their antares and Oromo traditional, clothes, and then they celebrate with us. So it is both religion and culture, which today is becoming resistance symbol. And the Waaqeffatas, we are accepting that and recognizing that it belongs to everyone, and we will not claim it as if it belongs only to us. I don't know if I make it clear or if I'm making it even complex.
No, it's a clear answer. It's a clear answer. Thank you. So to end off our panel, I'd like to ask one final question to both of you. So with the respective places where both of you live, as both of you are Waaqefatas, what are the key challenges in your communities to keeping Waaqeddannaa alive? As previously we talked about the kind of revival of Waaqeddannaa, but as members of the Oromo diaspora, what are the key challenges that you face in keeping Waaqeddannaa in your communities, and how do you combat those challenges? Adesina, we can start with you.
Okay. And if that's allowed, I know we don't have a lot of time. I do have a question myself too. But let me first answer, and then I'll ask a question to both of you guys, and then I know you guys can also add in there. So, how do you, I mean, at a lot of places, when you are at least the one that, or the only one at least willing to come forward, say, practice this religion, a religion that was so banned for so long, a religion that is what if not a monotheistic religion, they believe in one God and with multiple names. As Bosnaka stated at the beginning, Bosnaka is educated in the religion, is an expert in the area. So it's in a lot of places when you are the only person, so it doesn't. It's just you, and you is between you and God. And then for me it's more of I ask my mom a lot. I ask my mom what they used to do back in the day when she was so young. And I used to ask my grandma, passed not too long ago here. And so they practiced it, you know what I'm saying? So I asked them a lot, like, what did you guys do? So you have to understand these people are conditioned to look down in that faith. So they don't really feel comfortable to talk about it. And in fact, they wish that you don't even practice or you don't even mention. They want you to look somewhere. So for me, it's a form of resistance that I want to be me 100% without not faking. I wanted to live in a world that would allow me to shine as I am. And I think I remember there was this quote when I was in college, my colleague and classmate, I'm not going to mention her name, and she used the quote, she said, like, when we individually shine, we automatically give an okay for others to also shine. And I feel like as an Oromo, when we allow ourselves, when our family allow us to shine as we are, because we are unique creature, there's only one of me in this world. There will never be another. There will be another, maybe smart, better, different person, but there will not be any other person like me. So I think when our parents, when our siblings, when our families are supportive of who we are without really trying to change us, that bring the best out of us. For me, that's what it did. Is like, I can't tell you, Gudisa, as a woman coming from the conservative family that I came, if it wasn't for my mom, if it wasn't for my sibling, to be in okay for who I am or who I have became, I could not have survived. It really will kill you. It kills your spirit. Your spirit is 1/3 or half of who you are. So keeping the religion is that's something very personal, because when I remember in 2018 I traveled to Norway, so I had a luxury opportunity to be with the Waaqeddannaa from all around the country, all around the world that came there. And in Minnesota there are some there, but where I'm living right now, I'm based in Chicago. There are not many, so it's very personal. It's something that you face yourself with it. Every single day you have to answer. You are facing a community that is conditioned to look down into this, so it's kind of like it's a form of resistance for me. Maybe I'll come back and ask the question later, but that's how I look at it.
Okay, Bosnaka, can you answer also?
Yeah, very interesting question, because as we mentioned in the beginning, that Waaqeddannaa and to be Waaqeddata is like being ashamed, named and ashamed for years, for more than 150 years. It's not that easy to come out and call yourself Waaqeddata when everything bad is called Waaqeddata, when it is described as Satan and everything bad. Then to come out and call yourself Waaqeddata, as it sounds challenge. But as Sana mentioned, the family background gives you the strength. Like I'm, born and brought up in a family from Orthodox Church. So, symbolically they go to the church, but at home they practice waqfata. So that is where I get, start asking them, why you go to the church, then you come home and still, practicing waqfata? And they told me, they understand nothing when they have been in church. It is, told them by Ge'ez and Amharic, which the language they don't understand. Thanks to God that they didn't understand the language. Then our religion revived. That's what I always say. Otherwise, it could have been, destroyed. So that is where I start seeing deeply inside me from childhood. I, listened to them, soothed, and practiced the way they openly, deeply, talk to Waka. The Oromos, they say, they do not say they pray. In fact, they say, I talk to Waka, Waka walina sofna. They speak directly to Waka as a father. Waka, atanagan ulchi, tanagan ulchi. They talk directly to Waka. That is the most impressive thing I saw as a child. And when I grow, I've been luckily I met the Basaguyo, a historian, the man who is known for teaching Gada and the Waaqeddannaa. Once in 2001, he came out on VOA and talked about religion, Waaqeddannaa. Maybe that is the first time somebody came openly internationally and say Waaqeddannaa is one of the greatest religion in the world. And he explained. And when I came to Norway, the first thing we did was we came together, we talked together with other friends and organized Waaqeddannaa as formal religion registered in Norway. We are lucky that we are in a country like Norway where even one single person can register one's own religion. There is no hindering. So we have got a plot of graveyard for Waaqeffatas. We have got places, we have got government support to practice our religion. This is the golden chance. So it was so simple. And above that, we start organizing, every 2 weeks and every month, having online meetings and teaching each other. I'm not expert myself. Sena repeatedly mentioned Asnak is an expert, but I'm not expert. But I'm trying to, keep up what I learned, the little I learned from my father, from Dabbasa Guyo and others, and start recording and writing articles and books so that we can, hand over to our children. So there are lots of challenges. The first challenge is from Oromos. When we in abroad here came together and say we will organize Waaqeddannaa as a religion, many people against us opposed, telling us that Waaqeddannaa is a religion practiced at home and it was not supposed to be organized as a religion. And we start telling them that, look, if we do not get organized, we cannot develop we cannot survive. We have to get organized, come together, tell the public, encourage people, the young people, to come back to their original religion. Then that was very successful. So here in Norway, for me, it is really a prestige to be Waaqeddannaa, to say a little, to practice my religion, because we've got everything available. We've got government support. We have got a place to worship. We have got a place to Irecha, and it is almost exotic here in Bergen. Where every year when we go to Irecha, it's coming on local newspaper. And this year and last year, we have even got government archive, people working for registering unregistered history and religion. So we have got even a video record where they put a long interview detailed interview on Waaqeddannaa and the Gada, and they put it in a library where everybody can come and listen to, learn more about Waaqeddannaa. So it's really a prestige for us to practice Waaqeddannaa in Norway, but still, you know, deep sorrow for our brothers back home who have no even place to worship and no place to get buried.
Yes, thank you. That's very encouraging to hear for other Oromo diaspora, other Waaqeddannaa followers in the diaspora who kind of seem lost in terms of finding a formal way to acknowledge their religion. Desena, if you would like to ask the question you had previous, we're kind of running low on time, so.
Yes, very true. So my two-part question, but I'll make it as fast as possible. I want to also hear a little bit from Gudisa. And I'm saying Gudisa being such a young man, you know, born and raised, you know, in diaspora here in the Western. How did you find the article? And as a follower of the faith, because when I meet young people, you know, I tell them about it, they get really impressed and they get happy, but they I don't know if they suppress. I don't think this generation is not shy. I don't think they're shy, but for whatever reason, it's hard to come out. That's one question. And second is for Bosnake. It's like, I think this conversation, as I said at the beginning, is that there is no, especially narrative in English or in the language that people can understand about the persecution of these people. Every single day, the government arrests them, abuse them, torture them, release them, and you don't even hear about it. Yes, Oromos are facing atrocity at the hands of Ethiopian government, and that is well documented, well stated. We follow that very closely ourselves. We have written about it. In fact, recently we just met with the commission, with the UN, and there are, within the UN, there are other organizations that we are working about the Oromo persecution. But within Oromo persecution, there is different type of atrocity. These followers are simply are accused of being Oromo nationalists or Shane, as the government likes to, simply for practice. If you're an Oromo and practicing, you are already automatically put in this camp and stuff like that. And for a closing remark, I know we only have very few minutes. If you could just add a little bit about that, because as I say, this conversation began where we were working with the State Department, and that we didn't have a lot of information to show because everything is written in Afan Oromo and nobody really read that. So these are my two questions. Both of you guys can go first, and then a snack, and then I'm done with it. Thank you, and thank you so much again. I'm really happy to be on this panel discussion.
Thank you so much. So to answer your question, for me, my impressions of the article were quite positive. I'm not an expert on the facts, the facts surrounding Waaqeddannaa in terms of how long it's existed, its conception, but I do have an understanding of its core or foundational values through my own personal reading and also through my family, mostly my father. He's Waaqeddannaa, and in his household, even though, as Obuasanake mentioned, lots of families who convert to other religions in private continue to practice Waaqeddannaa, and that was the same with both my mother and father's families. So it was quite easy for me to look at, to read the article, and it made an impression on me, not in terms of understanding of the religion itself, but more of the understanding of its persecution and why that persecution exists and how long that persecution has existed and what the religion was like before that persecution came to be. So for me, the article was very insightful, and I quite enjoyed reading it.
Good. To just follow up your question, Sena, it is true that we didn't, concentrate on the audience outside Oromo. We are supposed to write more in English. We have a website, waaqeddannaa.com, where we have English articles there. As I mentioned in the beginning, I have written 3 years ago now, a little bit detailed about this persecution and how we can work for revitalization of Waaqeddannaa. I think we need to work more, organize such discussion, and enlighten both non-Oromos and the young Oromos who cannot read maybe in Oromo. It's really very interesting. At the same time, I would like to use this opportunity to thank you, Sena, that you raise about Waaqeddannaa in every opportunity you get. It's as Waaqeffattu, we are very, very proud of you that you raise this issue. We need to work more in different languages. Once we have written in Norwegian, and we have lots of interviews recorded in Norwegian language. We need to work more in English too. We have to translate many documents we have in English so that the international community understands what's happening today, especially the persecution, killings, the domination going on, targeting Waaqeffata as a religion, even if, as you mentioned, every Oromo is targeted today. Waaqeffatas are especially targeted. So we need to work more on this, especially in English. Thank you for that.
If I can just, because I saw a comment online that why focus on this when there's so much atrocity going on, that I think is important that that we focus in Oromo atrocity across, and if Oromos are targeted because they are Oromo and Muslim, that is where we're going to go. If the Oromos are targeted the Oromo and Christian. In fact, there's another article coming up this month that is going to be on Orthodox Church. So there will be some similar panel discussion. We have nearly about 40 volunteers in here, some majority non-Oromo, but some Oromo. And so we are bringing, and I don't organize this. I myself, I'm a guest, as you guys know, Good Desire is the host here. But I know they're working on a panel discussion for Orthodox, how within the Orthodox religion, Oromos are discriminated. So I think if it's within the Muslim religion in Ethiopia, or particularly in Oromia, is a discrimination, that will be the case. So I think it's important for people to know that you cannot dictate only my way this is the way. The organization that any kind of persecution that people are facing because of their faith, because of their religion, because of their gender, that is something that we as Allah, that we work on it. And I do wanted to say one more thank you again, Obo Snake, for positive comments, and also Gudisa for hosting this conversation, because the thing is, like, at the end of the day, it is about, it's not easy to be yourself. It's easy to fake it. It's easy to, it's not popular. It doesn't get you any applauding. It raises a lot of questions and a lot of negativity. But how do we rise above that? We really tell these young people, the up and coming generation, that it is okay to follow your heart, to follow your passion, because at the end of the day, we're all gonna die. So do you want to die faking to be somebody else or follow some faith? We are fighting every single day to free our people from any type of oppression, and that includes this faith. So I'm obviously happy to be on this panel, and thank you so much again, Gudisa, for having us for today.
Thank you, Gudisa.
Thank you so much for coming, both of you. Thank you so much. It's greatly appreciated. So with that, if there are no further comments, we will end off our panel discussion on that note. Thank you all for coming.